Morning, everybody. What a lovely day, lovely view. Don't often get a view like this, do you? Well, I certainly don't from my home office. It's a pleasure to welcome Leonie here today. We only met yesterday, so we haven't known each other for 10 years, however, 18 years, however long they knew each other before. But it's been a pleasure to get to know you over the past 24 hours. But hopefully we're going to hear some insight today in terms of how not only the Times builds a strong kind of digital audience, but actually how that's relevant to most people who are trying to build brands in today's world. So just to kick us off, though, and so you can get to know Leonie a little bit better. So you joined the Times as a SEO journalist in 2018. Prior to that, you were a senior reporter for the Marketing Week, so you're kind of this world as well. In terms of your role today, so what's a day in your life, Leonie?
I'd say it's never boring. Yeah, it's incredibly busy in terms of news. So in terms of, I guess, my role and how we do things at the Times and Sunday Times, I think it's best to kind of explain it in the kind of 4 different areas that my team looks at. So starting with search. Search, as for many publishers, is our main guest referrer. It's our main converter in terms of subscriptions. So it's, Google is hugely important for us. By the way, if I say Google in a weird way, it's because I'm Dutch. I'm not trying to be quirky. It's just my European way of speaking. So search is very, very important for us. Then you've got social. So of course we are across all of the main kind of social platforms that you'd expect. We're still on Facebook, on X, or we still say kind of Twitter sometimes in the newsroom. So yeah, Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, WhatsApp, plenty of platforms is what we're across. We've got our engagement team, which is incredibly important. So the engagement team is all about, once people have subscribed, kind of keeping them. So that kind of comes in terms of our commenting, so moderation. So nearly half of our subscribers comment at least occasionally, but many more read comments. It's a very important thing to their subscription package. We also get them involved in our journalism through subscriber projects, we call them. So we recently did a project on kind of private schools, or we do them around people going on maternity leave and then returning to work, how that is for our readers. So basically we want people to be involved in our journalism and feel invested in our journalism, as a result build that kind of brand relationship that way. And then finally we've got editorial data, sits within my team as well. So data is of course hugely important, and we feedback to both newsrooms every day, how we're performing, what our subscribers and guest readers are reading, what they're engaging with, what they're not reading and not engaging with. And all of this helps us inform what we commission.
Does that answer the question? I think that really did really thoroughly.
It's in a nutshell.
Yeah. And, today it's the future of brands, and there's no, long-established brand like the Times with a strong heritage in print.
Yes.
The move to digital, how's that worked internally? And I think, between church and state, and you say newsroom editorial, how does one go about taking the whole business like the Times into that digital space?
I think it's definitely an ongoing project. It's of course, we're a heritage brand since 1785. Digital is of course where all of our kind of growth is. 2/3 of our subscribers use the app daily, so it's very, very important to us. In terms of, I guess, how we bring them along, it's all about kind of placing digital kind of at the heart of the newsroom and how they operate. So especially with my team, we used to be a lot more siloed. We're very much now at the center of the newsroom. So all of the news editors, they're very much listening to what the search and social and engagement teams are telling them. So we have an 8 a.m. meeting every single day. We've got some of the most senior members of staff on that meeting. Sometimes the editor-in-chief of the Times will also be there. And the first thing they ask is, what are people searching for? What are people commenting on? What are people engaging with on social? What's trending? So those questions are very much our starting point of the day. And then later on in the day, we'll have our 10:30 meeting where we kind of go through the data. And again, everyone gets told, this was yesterday's performance, but what are we going to do today?
God, this isn't in the questions, but I'm just interested. If you, because obviously you've got, people comment. The commenting is huge, and you hear it. Sorry, I'm going to say a lot of lunatics, but there are quite, people that will comment in a less than, I suppose, truthful way. But have you ever unearthed new kind of stories from something that...
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, it's basically part of the moderation team's role is to go through the comments and see what people are saying. And this gets fed back to the newsroom every single day. But also that's how we get a lot of our story ideas. We do sometimes go back to commenters and say to them, you left this comment, could you please tell us more? How would you feel about talking to us about it for a story? So yeah, our subscribers in that way are very, very valuable to us. In terms of the other side that you mentioned, we launched real name commenting back in May 2022, and the reason we did that is that we felt that we wanted people to use their real names when they're commenting. Use your real name. Don't hide behind fake names. And what we have seen from that has been twofold. We've seen that our subscribers have told us that they felt like the comments have become a much more kind of friendly, less toxic place.
Yeah.
And also, it hasn't actually impacted kind of the commenting volumes that much at all. There was some questions around, will it impact how many people comment, but that hasn't happened. So people have switched over and are, still commenting.
And do you actually get anybody that, like like a regular listener, like, the dial into a radio show, do you get like your regular people? Do they think they're like times like
we do
an extension?
And we get them into the office as well.
Do
so
you?
we've run events in the past where we get our most kind of ardent commenters in, and just basically show them around the newsroom and make them feel really invested and make them feel valued, because commenting is just really important to us.
And that is in the terms of a brand, that is the ultimate kind of advocacy, isn't it? That you're all completely fully invested in the brand, coming having a tour. And I suppose, again, like relevant to people in the room, of like, how do you continue to build brand and the value in a brand, but at the same time bring in new users through promotions or, etc., whatever, from a supermarket all the way through to a subscriber. How do you balance making sure that you keep the quality of the Times as a brand versus kind of like, not bog-offs, but you're like new, subscriber offers, etc. How do you do that balance?
So we do run sales where we will say, £1 for 4 months. I think the one thing we don't do is we're quite careful not to do them over a longer period of time.
Yeah.
So we want to keep them quite kind of short and pithy. Now, when people then sign up and they come in on a deal, there's a really important process that we then have to start in order to keep them. So there's a few things we can try and do to try and make them feel like they're kind of building that brand relationship. So there's a few things that we can look at that will, for us, determine whether or not people stay from quite an early stage. So it's things like downloading the app, signing up for push notifications, and signing up to at least 2 newsletters or more. So newsletters for us, as a result, is an area that we've hugely invested in, because it's a very, very important way to keep people engaged with the brand.
So that's it. So in terms of your tactics, so newsletters is one. I'm just thinking again, kind of cross-learnings for other brands. So if brands had a regular conversation with users, the offers, and then you do that in as well. What else do you do?
So, well, can I just talking about newsletters in a bit more depth, because I think one of the things we made a lot of changes to our newsletters. We used to have loads. So we did a bit of a cull a couple of years ago. We redesigned them. But also, one of the changes we also made is that we got our journalists to write them. So we used to have a lot of newsletters that were kind of pure links, just not that much context, just kind of here's your best stories for the day. Now they are very much kind of written by a journalist, carefully curated. We also, we do things like, we include some kind of a happy note to end on in a newsletter. We've really kind of carefully thought about the kind of product, like newsletters being a product in and of itself. So that has been a very big change for us. So we culled a lot of our newsletters. We still have, in terms of our open rates across the board, they're still around 60%, so very, very high. And the reach of those newsletters are almost, big, if not bigger than some of our newspaper days.
Wow.
So they're very, very important, in short.
Yeah. And again, sorry, this wasn't in, I'm just thinking, looking at the House of Parliament, we've got a massive, almost like global election coming up. So there are obviously key moments in the calendar that the audiences are going to be more engaged. Yeah. How do you capitalise on what are going to be key moments?
It takes a lot of planning.
Right.
And it has to take a lot of planning across departments. So not just editorial, but also commercial and marketing. So we're all aligned on what we want to achieve that year, but also what we want to do in terms of our promotions. I think our journalists are very much at the heart of that.
Yeah.
So we get them involved in our marketing as well as our editorial.
Yeah.
They're basically our experts, and as well in terms of social promotion, we've seen some changes to social platforms. That's where they're still cutting through.
Right.
So it's basically our talent. Sorry, I know not everyone likes the word talent. That's what we very much rely on.
That's good. Listen, we've got 5 minutes, so if there are any burning questions, I will try and come, because I know that Kat's got a mic. So who's going to win as we look across there? What is your editorial telling you?
Oh, well, I mean, if you have to go via the polls, then potentially Labour, say it quietly.
Yeah.
But honestly, who knows? I mean, it's going to be such an exciting year for us anyway, with the US elections as well. We're moving into the US.
Well,
so
I want to move on, because let's get us home done. But yeah, I mean, the US, I think I went to a dinner, it wasn't actually with the Times, it's a different news brand, but actually The Economist. But I think it was about 3 years ago, and he said Trump will get back in 3 years ago, and we'd all thought we got rid of him, and we're just getting over COVID. Can he get in?
Well, you're going to have to read the Times and Sunday Times to find out.
Fair enough. And I suppose, are there any, I don't know if there are any questions, don't have to be, so it's not like, oh, there is. Sorry, Kat, just over here at the front, sorry.
Hi, Jack Benjamin, a reporter for the Media Leader. I'm curious, you mentioned that every day you have meetings with editorial to tell them sort of what's trending, essentially.
Yeah.
Is there any concern in terms of having a newsroom being led by the audience versus sort of leading on its own to decide, well, look, we think this is important, but it's not necessarily trending? How do you balance the responsibility from a journalistic standpoint with the responsibility to reach audiences that are interested in stories?
It's a really good question. One thing to kind of make clear is we don't want to chase kind of pure clicks. We're not about that kind of one and done audience. We really want to, we call it kind of quality traffic. We want people to kind of come back over a longer period of time. So one of the things that we, as an SEO team, what they think about on a daily basis is how do we add value? So when we're pitching a trending story, like how do we take it on? How do we add value to the point that people will basically part ways with their money? Because we don't want to be just purely chasing clicks. We could if we wanted to, but it's not our business model. And also that editorial judgment still definitely comes in. It is down, we want to basically be data informed, not data driven. So we look at the data and we can basically say, look, this is trending, this is our recommendation, but at the end of the day, our editors are very much in charge of what gets commissioned.
Sorry, there's another one there.
Hi, I'm a big fan of The Story, the Times new podcast brand.
Nice.
And I just wondered how you plan your audiences across your different entertainment properties and platforms.
So, I mean, with The Story, I mean, it's very much, I think more than half of our listenership there is aged between 18 to 34, which is younger than our digital subscriber base. So we do definitely look at the different platforms and look at the audiences that we have there and kind of plan and place things accordingly based on what we know will work on those platforms. So we work in very much like an audience first kind of way. I'm not sure if that answers your question, sorry.
Cool. I think there's one at that. Whilst I think the mic gets over there. In terms of what has been a really surprising story to you that's just completely flared up and you just didn't expect it at the time?
Story in terms of how it landed, or
however you want to answer the question.
I think, well,
or something that started small that got really big, maybe something like that.
I will say there's moments, I think, when I've been at the Times and Sunday Times where there's been stories where you've seen it take off in a way that you thought it would take off, but you didn't think it would be like the only thing on X all day. So we had that, for example, with the Russell Brand investigation last September. That was something that was a 3-year investigation that took a very long time, a lot of resource. We obviously partnered with Channel 4, and it was a partnership between the Times and the Sunday Times. But we knew that was going to be big, but I mean, I personally was just quite overwhelmed by just how much that dominated X and all of the kind of broadcasts, and it kind of just it basically drove a lot of traffic over a longer period of time.
And then based on that, capitalising on that traffic, how much percentage do you think stayed then? Do you think it brought in new users?
It definitely did. I think our investigations are basically an excellent way to do that.
Yeah.
It's kind of, and obviously news is our bread and butter, so that's kind of how we get new readers in and get them to also stay. I think as well with that investigation, one thing we saw in particular was that it was like an influx of younger readers, and we saw that within our own subscriber data as well. It really managed to do that job very, very well.
I'm so sorry to the gentleman at the back because we're on 10 seconds. I'm sure Leonie will answer your question after because we could have stayed here all day, but I want to get us back on time. So thank you so much, Leonie. That was fascinating. Thank you.